Welcome to the PC Perspective Podcast. It's episode 664, being recorded on February 16, 2022. I'm Sebastian Peak.
I'm Jeremy Hellstrom.
I'm Brett Van Sprumberg.
Kent Burgess.
But yeah, just getting right down to business this week. Josh is not here. As you can tell, Kent has flown to Laramie, Wyoming to sit in Josh's place.
Well, Josh is in mourning because Google Plus finally died today.
I didn't know he was that passionate about it. You would not believe some of the...
He loved his spaces.
Things he was writing. It got very intense for a while there. You can find out when we go live for this banter session by going to pcper.com/subscribe. You can support the site by becoming one of our patrons. Yes, we're another YouTube channel that's asking people, hey, we have a Patreon, please consider contributing. But we really appreciate it. We have a little community going there, and I'm active in that community. If that's not too much of a detractor for you, consider it. There's little perks. There's special stuff. Like I tell people what I'm working on and provide updates and things there. Look for feedback. Ask a question. Actually, I'm asking patrons for questions for our next mailbag episode. We have some new patrons. We have Plant in Corner and also a new contributor. I'm not drinking alone. I'm drinking with you guys.
Yes.
Is their name.
You are.
And also
Mazel tov.
Ian Solo. And another Sir Bogative Fabrication Labs bump in the last week.
I was worried he would pass away or
just to
something.
get his name mentioned. Let's move to the news. And AMD has just completed the biggest acquisition ever in their industry because NVIDIA's fell through. They have purchased Xilinx.
They never really had any FPGAs, and that's where Xilinx does their work and are quite, well known. They've got a good chunk of the overall market share of that portion of the market. So that means that, up until now, you'd see AMD in a car or a plane because it was actually driving the little in-seat monitor that you had. But it was never doing any of the electronics or anything, and they haven't any presence in networking gear since probably the 90s. So getting this part of the market, which, NVIDIA is going to town on, Intel is really looking directly at, gives them a whole bunch of new room to expand. And we'll see how well they can pull that off because it ended up being a really, really expensive deal, much more than it would have been originally because the stock price of both companies went up significantly before all of this. This has also done good things for the stock. So yeah, it's a good thing, I think, for getting the market a little bit better. It's not perfectly brilliant, but it was certainly higher a little bit before, wasn't it?
Let's see. AMD's market cap as of right now is $191.52 billion. Going over this other tab here.
And a quick check to Intel.
196.34. Oh, okay. It looks like Intel still has the edge by a few billion.
Just a couple of billion.
I guess at some point today, AMD actually had the lead, but anyway.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is that the only way that AMD could have actually pushed this through with a $45 billion trade is stock, whereas Intel could have said, yeah, all right, fine, here's the cash. Thanks. Bye.
I think this makes them a better company.
Even if it's not terribly exciting. It kind of is.
It is. I mean, there's a lot of market consolidation in a lot of areas. It happens all the time. And sometimes you wonder, what was the purpose of this? What are they going to get out of it? But this actually makes a certain amount of sense. Now they can make the entire board, for the self-driving cars or process control stuff.
Samsung's Metaverse event apparently didn't go especially well. I don't know why. What could possibly go wrong with a metaverse?
Metaverse.
Anything involving metaverse really is just... Yeah. It's the new... What is it? What is this really akin to? It's the new 3D TV?
Second Life.
Yeah, I guess.
Oh, stop.
And almost the same graphic quality.
This is harsh.
Yes.
But accurate. You thought
Except instead of having events ruined by a giant amounts of flying penises, a thing, look it up in Second Life. They couldn't get into the door at the Samsung event. So the avatars were literally climbing over each other. Those that could actually figure out how to get through. Because apparently when you first landed, you were presented in a lobby with this giant swirling whirlpool of death in the middle. Or at least, a swirling vortex that you wouldn't really want to step into, except you had to sort of navigate around it somehow to be able to find your way into the event, which wasn't explained and led to a whole bunch of comments about, screw this game sucks. I don't even know what I'm supposed to be doing here. But anyways, a few that could make it through ended up in a lineup, and since the avatars aren't supposed to be able to harass each other, there are boundaries as to what you can do, and so literally jumping on top of each other's heads to try and climb through a door, which of course is probably only going to accept one avatar at a time. There were some random people who were saying, oh, well, I found it over a way to get in over on this other server. Never any instructions on, well, if I want to pop over to a different server, how would exactly I do that in the metaverse? So it went exactly as most people figured it would.
This looks absolutely terrible.
There were parts of Second Life that actually looked better than that. I wish I was kidding.
The summary up here, I just love it. The South Korean tech giant hosted an event on Decentraland, a cryptocurrency-focused virtual world. It's one of the many metaverse efforts, accessed via desktop browser. What could be more modern and, convenient? Users can navigate the blockchain-powered virtual world with a mouse and keyboard. It's exciting.
Oh, as somebody said on Toad Sloth on the YouTube chat, the non-humanity. Save us.
I think all you have to do now is use the words metaverse and blockchain, and whatever you're doing is going to make you money somehow, even though no one understands how.
They just don't want to be left out,
You just don't want to be left out now.
FOMO is real, and these companies are very, very worried.
Use the blockchain keyword, gather customers.
How can we leverage the blockchain to engage with our customers in the metaverse? And just have meetings about that. That's really exciting. And then read up on your buzzwords so you can sound like you kind of know what you're talking about, even though you have no idea what you're talking about in the meeting.
You know what? We're going to hire you as a consultant here pretty soon.
Consultant, yes.
I've really enjoyed the blockchain-powered metaverse reviews that Sebastian's put up on YouTube recently.
Yeah. Without harnessing the power of the blockchain, it never would have been possible. Decentralized video reviews like ours are really meta, first, ready. Exabytes of X bytes. Factory contamination ruins Western Digital and Kioxia SSDs. Oh, the humanity. This actually is humanity.
And cell phones and iOS
just so
crap
much.
And the one thing that we haven't had so much of a shortage on.
Well, they're looking over the fence and they're seeing all these other guys are really enjoying a price premium. What can we do?
Almost as if this is intentional. Brett, how could you even suggest such a thing?
The humanity. Oh, the humanity.
I just found it very interesting that they've never explained what kind of contamination, what it was that contaminated.
The contamination was filthy money, stacks of it, cash money, contaminated the entire plant. They said, oh man, with all this money, I think we might have to just delay production a little bit. We have to drive up the scarcity a little bit and raise prices. Because if they don't have some kind of catastrophic event on their side, how do they justify raising the prices of their vendors? Like, oh, that order you made last week? I'm going to have to jump it like 20, 30% now to cover all of these losses. Do you still want it?
Yeah, miscellanea. You don't need a reason anymore. Just miscellaneous costs. Okay, but that's like 300% of the cost. Yep. You want it?
Miscellaneous, yeah. hot off the presses at 7-something p.m. this evening, I got an email. A PR company sent this via Micron. They are EOLing the Crucial Ballistics brand. So end of life. It's no more. And as I wrote, Ballistics RAM will soon be a memory.
You have done well, but
thank you.
Forget,
I did it for you.
Don't forget, you can never fall back now.
No, I've always got to try to one-up myself. I'll never one-up you, but Crucial's ballistic memory has been around for quite some time, writes someone here at PCPro.com, but that will soon change as Micron will be giving the brand EOL status. But don't worry, the company will, quote, intensify its focus on the development of Micron DDR5 client and server product roadmap, along with the expansion of the Crucial memory and storage product portfolio. So they'll still do Crucial memory, just like the green PCB, or I guess black PCB, plain Jane memory. And they will do Micron DDR5, probably for the OEM market, client and server. But no more Ballistics gamer memory, no more heat spreaders.
I thought I would break some out in celebration.
I remember that Ballistic Sport.
Yep. So somebody said they look a little bit like harmonicas, and I kind of agree.
They don't sound as good.
They do have.
No, try playing it.
A little bit I'm not.
Just a little bit of NAND contamination. Come on.
This trip down memory lane.
Brought to you by.
Partially. Let's pause here for a word from this week's first podcast sponsor.
If you're a software engineer, this might sound familiar. It's late at night and you're finally unwinding from work. Your phone buzzes with an alert. Something is broken. Your mind is already racing at what it could be. Server side or front end, maybe it's networking, or did I introduce a bug in the last deployment? Now the whole team is probably scrambling from tool to tool, messaging different people to try and find and fix the issue. That just won't happen if you get New Relic. New Relic combines 16 different monitor products that you'd normally buy separately, so that software engineering teams can see across their entire stack in one place. More importantly, you can pinpoint issues down to the line of code, so you know exactly where the problem happened and begin to resolve it quickly. Dev and ops teams from DoorDash, GitHub, and even Epic Games, and more than 14,000 other companies are using New Relic to debug and improve their software today. Cloud native startup or Fortune 500 company, you can set up New Relic in your environment in just 5 minutes. The next 9 p.m. call is just waiting to happen. Get New Relic before it does, and you can get access to the whole New Relic platform with 100 gigabyte of data, free, forever, no credit card required. Just sign up at newrelic.com/PCPer. That's NEWRELIC.com/PCPer. Go and get more information at newrelic.com/PCPer.
We're back, and we're going to talk about malware. You know, obviously, every week we like to depress you with flaws and zero-day exploits. And this week is no different. A critical remote escalation flaw in Android 12 fixed in February security patch batch. So absolutely update if you're running Android 12. Don't put it off.
If you can.
Yeah, if you're on a Google device, then of course you can just get the image and it still it erases your whole phone, but still you can.
But Jeremy's point is that perhaps not all devices are going to get the necessary update. You have to check versions, make sure that you're on a patched version, or I don't know. I mean, this is dangerous to be walking around with the remote code execution vulnerability on your phone. I hate to say it, but you might want to trade in that device.
Oh, please. Okay.
I hate to say it.
Walt Mossberg has joined us. Walt, what device would you recommend that Android users concerned about their privacy and security move to?
I think
BlackBerry.
I think you know what I would recommend.
Okay.
I'm not gonna say it.
Is it a certain?
Oh, did we not talk about the iPhone vulnerability this week?
Oh,
no,
you're not.
No,
did Brett remove that from the list?
I didn't. But if Jeremy wanted to talk about it, I'll just mute him.
Yeah, because you're the one driving vMix.
No, I'm just going to take my headphones off.
Okay, that's a good way of muting the world. Just stop listening, like most Apple users. Obviously, owners of Pixel phones will be among the, if not the first, to be offered these updates. Download and install, says the article. Obviously, that's what you get. One of the advantages of being a Pixel owner is, fixes for things like this. You don't have to worry about whether your carrier is going to offer this to you or, if you're still being supported.
Careful. Some people think you're serious.
Well, chances are you aren't supported because that was last year's product and you need to buy this year's.
It's usually about, I'd say, 2 or 3 years. I was a proud Nexus
Wait a minute.
user for
When
a while.
I said that, you guys made fun of me. Wait a minute.
It's because it's
I'm
you.
still making fun of them.
Okay, all right.
Look, Apple users, they have amazing support. I will say, if you have an iPhone or say an iPad, for years after you should have stopped getting updates, you still get them to make your device as slow as possible until you get so frustrated with it that you have no choice but to upgrade it to a newer model.
Well, that is one thing Microsoft's learned from them.
Oh, they're doing that now too?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, making your device run slower with their new OS?
It took him a minute, but
It
he
did.
got
I
there.
did. Slow.
It did. No, this is serious. This has happened like last day or so. Chrome
A
0
Chrome.
day.
A Chrome 0 day under active attack patch ASAP, says threat post. It's the first Chrome 0 day of the year.
I think they patched like 11 or 12 different remote code or very high CVE related malware wedges and holes and remote code execution possibilities. But anyway, if you're not on this version, I don't remember what it is. It's like .102, I think is what it ends in at least.
Yeah.
Please patch or upgrade your Chrome because this is serious and significant. 16. Oh, last year delivered a total of these 16 Chrome 0 days. But I think there were like 11 in this one.
So I've got a question that I haven't had much time to research it yet. But Edge is Chrome in a different dress.
You're right.
And I've heard nothing.
Microsoft has only your best interests at heart, Jeremy, so don't worry.
But I mean, I haven't heard anything from their security portal or like even we're in looking into it or, this totally doesn't count. I'm assuming that those crickets are not crickets. They're actually the sounds of stuff dripping from the bottom of pant legs because they realize that maybe putting the engine in control of someone else wasn't the greatest idea. Other than, the only worst idea would be staying with their original one because we could still be using Internet Explorer.
Yeah, but nobody wants that.
It's interesting because I just updated Chrome on my main PC, and watching YouTube videos, I was seeing my CPU usage skyrocket and my CPU temps going up to like 65, 75 to 75 degrees continuously. It wasn't like it would load a video and then ease up on the CPU usage. It stayed constant. And I verified that Chrome was the only browser that was doing this, and it was only with YouTube. So for the last few days, I've been watching YouTube on Edge on my main system, and the temperatures are fine. The CPU usage stays where it really should. And I actually have tried several fixes to this. I've uninstalled Chrome extensions, and I've actually uninstalled Chrome and reinstalled it, and the issues still persisted. So I'm very curious if that has anything to do with this latest patch.
And nothing to do with the YouTube codec that may or may not be used with Chrome versus another browser.
You're going to complain about us using up all your memory? Fine. We'll stop.
Maybe
Shame about that CPU.
Kent, it might be time to upgrade from that Prescott Pentium 4. That's all I'm saying.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a 9900K.
No.
It's been delidded.
Oh.
It's direct die cooled and overclocked to 5.2 gigahertz.
Okay, that might be enough.
That's not enough for Chrome. Sorry.
Chrome needs more. Yeah, but how much RAM do you have? Did you download enough RAM? How much?
32?
32 gigs.
Okay. That's a couple
That might
times.
be enough.
It seems adequate for YouTube. There was a time when you could watch YouTube on a mini PC. Good luck. I mean, I guess maybe 480p videos are fine. But
yeah. Click the gear icon.
Need hardware acceleration. Maybe there's an issue with your graphics driver.
I've actually tried turning that off and on. It's been very puzzling. And I had figured that a complete fresh install of Chrome would fix it, and it didn't. So yeah, it's the only browser. Even other Chromium-based browsers are not doing it. So I've been very puzzled by that.
The YouTube community thinks that you're just you need to be on AMD platforms and Intel issue, obviously.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah, the Intel processor is no longer able to predict what's going to happen next in the YouTube video because of security patches. So now you're just like,
yeah. Did you update your BIOS to the point of where predictive branching is no longer effective?
Yeah.
I actually use a program. I can't remember what it's called, but it disables all the microcode updates. So my computer is actually Spectre vulnerable, but it still performs better.
You may have an active exploit running on your system right now. It's just obfuscated by the YouTube. Why is this old YouTube video using 100% of my system resources?
Oh, because
it's almost like I'm mining
crypto.
Ethereum.
Yeah, I mean, that's the only nice thing is that they're probably not trying to hack you. They're just mining on your system.
I think your
everybody thought the
might have
same.
been compromised.
We all thought the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay, let's read a story about the Mac. There are hundreds and hundreds of Mac users who are also college students, and they use Zoom on a Mac sometimes. And you might want to check your microphone usage if you're one of these people. And I'm sure none of our audience is, but there is something interesting about this because apparently the mic indicator light stays on after your Zoom meeting is over. I thought Apple was supposed to be secure.
I thought I would throw this in as a Mac potential vulnerability. I don't know if I'd label this as malware quite yet, as opposed
Zoom?
to
I would label Zoom as malware.
It is, or spyware.
Yeah,
you have a certain point. You have a point
word for it.
But a lot of typical software that you would label that has no other use, which Zoom presumably has a different and intended use.
Mm-hmm.
But is this really being taken advantage of, or is this just sloppy programming and an oversight?
Anytime the mic is still on, it's only being used
for nefarious purposes.
So that they can tailor the advertising experience to everything that you say and do. So
yeah,
and they're doing you a favor, because how else are they supposed to know that you were thinking about pizza tonight, but you're not sure where to get it from, and then suddenly 4 ads for different local pizza places with coupons pop up on your phone?
Look, that's a Facebook play. It's
total
not
coincidence.
Zoom isn't doing that.
It's
Zoom
not even just Facebook. Although, yeah, it's usually people who have Facebook apps, like Facebook or Instagram on their phone. It's like mysteriously start getting ads for things you were talking about with your friend.
That does happen.
And the app wasn't even up.
It shouldn't surprise anyone when it happens, but it's nasty.
AMD Radeon RX 6850 XT is allegedly not happening.
Oh.
This is a rumor at videocards.com. AMD is apparently only going to be focusing on the full die Navi 2X Radeon RX 6X50 XT refresh, writes videocards.com here. So there might only be 3 SKUs. There's multiple sources. A couple of usernames that I won't try to pronounce, Cortex, Moore's Law is Dead, now all claim that there is a Radeon RX 6X50 XT refresh coming in the next few months, maybe April, June, July for the remaining SKUs. And it's Moore's Law is Dead that's claiming that there's going to be no 6850 XT. And really, this was just going to be... It's not like these are new GPUs. This is a refresh. I don't know if this is going to be along the lines of like the TI stuff, like the 3080 and 3070.
Isn't this just process optimization after they've, sort of churned out a lot of these parts? Presumably, because no one has any. But presumably after they've churned out enough of these, they can turn up the clocks on them and get better yields.
Let's see. Because, the stream processor count will not change with the 6950 XT. Presumably that would still be 5120 because that's the full die. Memory's the same. Memory speed is the same, but the TDP goes up. Okay. I would expect maybe faster. I don't know.
Or, maybe Navi 22 is selling well enough that they don't need to worry about adding another.
Why do they need to do
SKUs?
this at all? Just produce more of what you already have. I think there was a lot of people who would really like to buy a 6800 XT at MSRP. They'd be lined up around the block.
Look,
Well,
we leveled
you know.
the same criticism at NVIDIA when they came out with the TI version of whatever. We said, why not just make more of what people are desperate to buy? It's good
Because,
enough.
Brett,
in
then you
almost
can't
every
charge
situation.
more for it.
You know what? And that story is coming up later.
But you can. What you do is you just wait a generation, and then you put this out as a brand new card.
It's not.
And charge
It's
whatever
not.
you feel like.
It's not fast enough. People expect a generational improvement, and then they compare it to the previous ones, and then they do the alignment of this card is equal to that card in the previous generation, and then the dollar per frame
I miss
average.
doing
And if that
that.
doesn't work out, then people pillory them. They get
Or you could just contaminate 6.5 exabytes of NAND flash.
No suggestions.
that's one
No
way.
suggestions.
Yeah.
The GPUs were contaminated.
Sorry.
That's
The
what happened.
GPUs were contaminated.
That's where the
Yields are
shortage really
down.
came from. They were
Yields are
contaminated
down.
Now
with
they have to
Ethereum.
add a 50 to the XT, and
I'm excited about just an XTX. I want to see that again. I want to see the X, the XT, and the XTX GPUs come back.
What was the name of that again? It was the XTX. What was it? Is the XTX XT 6500 XT? I don't remember. It was
I had
ridiculous.
I think I had an X800 XT at one point, or maybe it was an X1800 XT. They used to put an X in front of it, then the number,
That's right.
then in like an XT or XTX at the end of it. Back in
And
the
you wanted the
ATI
one
days.
from X. It was from XFX. That was it. It was the XFX version of that card.
I might have one sticking around there.
That was back when I was getting like Sapphire and Vision Tech cards
Yes. Yeah.
Yep.
with those sweet
And the,
graphics on the front.
Oh,
Ryzen
Fat-
9
the fat
5800
The
X.
fat boy.
3 HD. What is that new 5800 with the 3D NAND cache? Or the 3D
Oh,
cache called?
yeah.
Yes.
X.
That
I
was
thought it was just
yeah.
X3D.
Maybe it is
5800
X3D.
X3D.
Yeah.
Speaking of money, NVIDIA released their financial results for the fourth quarter and for fiscal 2022. And would you believe it that in 2022, I'm confused about this. Fiscal 2022, I thought we just started. But I guess it was last year. Anyway, somehow.
NVIDIA
NVIDIA's on
has interesting
different-
quarters.
Okay. For whatever
Yeah, they're
reason.
on a different fiscal year than
Okay.
everybody else's fiscal year.
It's kind of like Korean birthdays, because if you're born, okay, this is something I was talking. My wife mentioned this to me the other day. If you're born in Korea, like the last week of December, you're already 1 year old, and then
Yeah.
January 1st you turn 2, and you're like a week old, but you're 2 now. So there are 40-year-olds in Korea who are really only 38. It's strange. They don't measure time the same way. Anyway, NVIDIA has announced their financial results, and they made a lot of money. Their fiscal year revenue was up 61%, $26.91 billion in revenue. Their quarterly was over 7.5, up 53% from a year before. Let's just see. How much did they make after they paid all their bills? Operating expenses, okay. Net income, fiscal 2022 Q4 was $3 billion. So,
Up 106% from the previous
Yes.
year.
yeah. And then let's look at the whole year, the whole 2022.
And we're still not sure what they're
somehow.
selling.
We know what they're selling. Net income for the whole year was almost 10 billion, 9.752. The year before it was only 4.332. That's up 125%. That's big. They don't need ARM. They just need to keep doing this. They just need Ethereum to never go away. Imagine all of those mining cards they're selling.
Speaking of ARM, did you see the next paragraph that when you started to scroll up?
What?
It was
What?
Scroll down a little bit.
What?
It had mentioned ARM. You were just below. Scroll down, just below the gap charts.
It's a bit to the left.
Yeah, right. Keep scrolling. Yep, keep going.
Oh, okay.
All right. So, yeah, here we are. Termination of the ARM share purchase agreement. This is where they got to write ARM a we're sorry we bothered you check for $1.36 billion. What was it? NVIDIA intends to record in operating expenses a $1.36 billion charge, the ARM write-off. I think we talked about this last time, just for putting them through the whole, we're thinking about buying you, that initial contract.
Who would have thought that terminating an acquisition would cost you an arm and a leg like that?
Oh,
no, just the arm.
It's not.
They can write it off.
It's not as good.
And they are writing it off.
Well,
it's like, it's just a tax write-off at this point. It's fine.
Yeah.
Whatever.
But and it was sort of a bit of a joke as to what exactly they're selling, because I mean they aren't really making the extra coin on those racks of GPUs. They probably only have raised the price a little bit, but apparently in the data center they've had a huge jump because data center cards aren't really very good for mining, or at least not on a cost coin percentage. So they've been pumping those out like crazy. And we've sort of known that. And if Josh was on, he'd sort of talk about that as well, because their revenue from that is guaranteed. The margins on it that NVIDIA actually gets are probably a little bit better. And a lot of the stuff is still hosted them. They're just virtual cards that you can access on a subscription basis. So that went up over 100%. The profit went over 100% from the last quarter or last year. And visualization apparently has really worked out for them. We haven't really talked much about the Omniverse since it first dropped, but apparently they're making money hands over fist on it, which is, interesting. It's something maybe we should take a look at some point. I don't know what we do with it, but apparently, it's making huge amounts of money for them. So that's the thing about, AMD from earlier expanding into different markets, is that you might not understand where a lot of their revenues or streams are coming from just because we're focused on one particular part, which is, the best part, but still that they make money from other sources.
Well, also aside from NVIDIA's development into self-driving technologies, they provide a lot of graphical power to automotive manufacturers for their displays. And I know that they provide Mercedes with all of the display drivers for their vehicles. And the latest Mercedes have like 3 full-length screens on the dashboard. So there's a lot of power going into that. And I guarantee Mercedes pays NVIDIA very, very well for that hardware to power that.
So see what happens in a month or two when it's going to be Q1 of 2023 for NVIDIA.
Oh, Lord, I don't even understand. They're on to 2024. They've just moved on. Let's move on to our gaming quick hits. And look at these crispy graphics. This is Dune 2, of course, the classic real-time strategy.
The grandfather of RTS.
Are you playing this on your 386, Sebastian, or?
I don't have a copy. Do you know how much? I mean, I could just put it on my hard drive, I guess, on the compact flash card. Do you have any idea how much a copy of Dune 2 sells for?
Do tell.
It's a lot. Anyway, Dune Spice Wars. It looks a wee bit different than the originals, writes our resident Canadian news editor here at PCPer.com. Do tell. What does it look like? Does it look like Civilization by any chance?
No, it looks a little bit more like Deserts of Karak.
Oh, okay.
But with significantly better lighting.
Is it ray traced lighting?
They didn't say, so I'm assuming not. Because the fact that we ray trace something, I mean, obviously they're going to scream and yell about it. It brings in a little more interesting part with your growth. One of the things that I've known, some of the people have only watched the Dune movie from ages ago, that Dune miniseries that never came out about 10 years ago, or the recent one is, why are the Fremen so upset? And it's, well, this game shows you. You literally have to go and take over their villages and then force them to mine spice for you. So it does kind of explain why the Fremen are a little bit peeved at all of these buggers coming and taking over their planet. Other than that, I don't think it's going to be a game changer in the way that the first one was, which, introduced, everything pretty much that you were used to in an RTS game in order for it to be an RTS game. But, obviously they've put a little bit of work into it. It's relatively pretty. Having fights on the surface of Arrakis is probably not a good idea because Shai-Hulud doesn't like noise. And other than that, it sort of looks like, general sort of spread out, harvest the mine, and build stuff. I don't know. I'm kind of torn in that RTS games have gotten so similar lately that the one or two little things that each one adds is not enough for me to get frustrated with dealing with path maneuvering and the fact that these particular ones are overpowered or underpowered or just plain boring. So what we shall see. I'm sure they've put a lot of money into it for those of us that love Dune and those that are just sort of being introduced to it yet again by Villeneuve. It's kind of interesting to at least be having the milieu, the world to go from. So we'll see. I don't know. This one's, I'm giving it a 50-50 as either being, yeah, that's nice, or just blah.
If you want to pay at least $10, you can pay whatever price you want for the latest F Cancer Humble Bundle. You get games like, I don't know, who put this on? Brett, do you want to?
I did. World War Z Aftermath looks pretty good. Payday has had some decent talks about it, but there are a couple down below that I thought were pretty good. Homeworld were the two that were like, oh, I can't believe it. Homeworld's on here. The complete remastered collection with the Deserts of Karak and Red Faction. Not one that I've played, but I've heard that it wasn't absolutely terrible.
And then you get games like Peppy's Adventure. And
yeah, okay, that's thrown in there. There's a
Hamilton's
couple of
Great Adventure.
Sure,
Another
there's
and
some
the
titles.
Brothers, which was interesting for 2-player, and I always liked the movie The Deer Hunter.
So it goes to a reasonably good cause. Pay what you want, $10 and up, but you get a nice suite of games for not a lot, and you feel good about the 100% donation to cancer research.
I guess.
So, why not put another 10 games in your catalog?
100% of it going to cancer research. It almost guilts you into doing it. Like, how do I not do this?
It does.
You support cancer?
Yeah. You don't have $10? You want people
heartless slug?
I don't have $10 and then goes through McDonald's drive-thru and gets a large value meal. Discovers that things aren't as cheap as they used to be. The Steam Deck is not shipping yet. I don't think people are even getting their emails to pay for it yet.
iFixit got one.
They did?
I have not received
one. Got one yesterday.
Oh, right. Well, they're seeding them to select people like Linus.
I
don't know how GN got one, but they had one. Yeah, so.
I sent mine back.
You sent yours back. Oh, yeah, sure.
But anyway, the compatibility list grows. Up to 300, nearly 300 games have the verified status. So they're ramping it up. This is going to be, it should be anyway, a pretty good launch, barring some horrible hardware flaw. Sounds like the software side of it is going to be very polished.
This is 300 games that have gone through compatibility that should be reasonably compatible with Linux now, because of course the Steam Deck is running Linux. And that's the sort of the upside of them pushing this through and dragging some of these games across the Steam Deck finish line, is that they should run fairly well on some variant of Linux that's endowed in a way that,
Kevin Thomas in the chat, they'll never release Steam Deck free.
They'll never.
I'm just going to get you all hopped up on Steam Deck. Steam Deck 2 is going to be amazing, and then they'll just...
It's true.
You'll never.
He's right about
They'll do like a Steam Deck 2.5 with a little bit of an extra
it'll be in VR. It'll be like, it'll be in the metaverse. Steam Deck 2.5 will be in the metaverse.
It'll be like Steam Deck 2E.
Let's pause here for a word from our second podcast sponsor this week.
Hey, it's a new year, but it's feeling harder than ever to find and hire the qualified people you need, especially for small businesses. That's where LinkedIn Jobs comes in. They make it easy to find the people you want to talk to faster and for free. I know that using LinkedIn Jobs has worked for me in the past and connected me with qualified people and hiring organizations. You can create a free job post in minutes on LinkedIn Jobs to reach your network and well beyond to the world's largest professional network of over 770 million people. Focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience and use screening questions to get your role in front of only the most qualified people. Then, use the simple tools on LinkedIn Jobs to quickly filter and prioritize those who'd like to interview and hire. This is one reason why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs number one. It's delivering higher quality candidates versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. Did you know that every week nearly 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn? Post your job for free at linkedin.com/PCPer. That's linkedin.com/PCPer to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply.
Let's shift into the reviews portion of our podcast this evening. And Brett, you reviewed something, the Corsair K70 RGB Pro keyboard. Tell us about it.
I did. I actually have it right here behind me. I left it plugged in so that you can see it. Now, I actually have it next to, if you can sort of see this behind me as well, that is the K70 with a different set of keycaps on it. I moved them all to the white keycaps. This is the K70 Pro, and the primary difference between the K70 and the K70 Pro is simply the addition of the number pad. I'm trying to move this to the right way. Simply the addition of the number pad. It's an aluminum deck, obviously very nice, inflexible. Love the multiple levels tilt levels you can set this at. The feet have got that. I can't say is that I'll ever use the competition switch in the background, which sort of locks everything out so that you can kind of pack your keyboard and take it with you to the gaming arena, where you can demonstrate to the officials that your macros are locked out and things like that. So that's what it's for. It has a built-in real-time operating system, just like the K70 review. So if you take a look at this review, I link back to the original K70 TKM review, which talks a little bit more about the real-time operating system built into all of their keyboards now, which is really a latency reducing thing. I don't notice any problems at all with this keyboard when gaming. It's absolutely fantastic. The only issue that I have with this particular keyboard, and I'm going to do this right up to the microphone so you can actually hear it, is the choice of switches that they sent me as the review sample. It is very, very, I'm plugged in right now, so it's actually doing something on my screen. Probably shouldn't do that. It's actually very, very loud. I hope you can see that, hear that.
You call that loud?
It's very loud. I was really only hitting one switch.
It's not buckling spring loud.
No, it's not. These are, let me just grab the...
You got the blues, right?
Yeah. One of the things I want to talk about here. So just want to make sure that this is these are RGB blues. Typical, very typical switches. The only other thing that I really like this keyboard more than the K70 for was, believe it or not, the simple addition of this built-in rest, which has a magnetic sort of snap ability on this, and it just easy goes right on there. When you get to a lot of keyboard use over a long period of time, you appreciate simple things like wrist rests. So it's included with the keyboard, easy, snaps on, magnetically attaches. It's a very nice unit. I would get the more quieter keys if I was picking one myself. You can see the wrist rest there. If I was to pick this and say, am I going to use this personally, I would get the quieter keys. If you don't mind the clickety-clackety stuff, it has very, very fast pickup. And I mentioned it's about the 70% of the keyboard press before it registers the click, and the rest of it's just...
What is the actuation distance on those? Is it...
I had that set in here, and then I'm sorry, I accidentally erased it. I could go back and re-add that. I apologize. I had it, that section in here. I know.
Yeah, I don't even see the specs.
Yes, I had a spec in here, and I just was taking a look at this to refresh my memory so I could talk a little bit about it today, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I erased the spec block, and I apologize. I can go in and re-add that. I just realized it just a little while ago, just within the last couple hours. So unfortunately, I can't give you that information right off the top of my head, but these particular switches have an actuation that is about 70% of the distance down, and then it registers the key click, and the rest of it is just rebound.
Hold on.
These particular switches.
So this is the Axon advantage. So obviously there's a lot of mechanical keyboards out there using the same switches, but Corsair,
Yes.
their whole thing is this proprietary advantage, this Axon. This is the operating system on the embedded
Correct.
OS on the keyboard itself.
It's what they call a real-time operating system. Very, very high polling rate, very high.
Oh yeah,
key scanning rate.
4,000 hertz key scan for the actuation detection on the keyboard itself.
You can set
wacky.
it to an 8,000 hyper polling rate if you really want to.
Is that using interpolation? Is that true?
Like, what is it connected with?
It's possible, but I do have to point out that you can see where some of their speed gains are in, and that's that processing time in the ability to process when a key is pressed and make sure that the system actually knows that the key's been pressed and which key it was. So that's where some of their latency improvement comes from. You can see their chart here is below a quarter microsecond in general.
So
It's a very fast keyboard, very fast.
what's the retail on this?
The retail on this is about 160
Okay.
on this one. So it's mentioned in there, right around 159. It depends on which keys you want to get. They have some reds that are a little bit more expensive. They've got the red linears, red quiets. Those are a little bit more pricey. They're all RGB Pros. They're all the same, fully programmable, different zones, right down to the individual key. Top-notch lighting customization. You've got to kind of be conversant with the Corsair IQ software in order to get the most out of this. In order to program all of the lighting functions and capabilities. There's transport controls for listening to music up at the top, a little bit nicer than the original TKM K70. They're a little bit more offset off to the side. It's a nice keyboard. No complaints here. Except
the
for the
pricing doesn't
switches.
sound bad considering what it is.
A lot of
Usually
things.
those are more expensive.
It is. It's the black brushed aluminum deck is very pleasing, would go with any build. It doesn't clash with anything. It kind of just fades into the background, but it's nice because it doesn't flex, and I like a keyboard that has no zero flex.
Another review went up this week, and it's not just a traditional review. It looks like it if you go to the website. Fractal Torrent Nano RGB Mini ITX case review. But this is a video review. That's right. This video was mastered at 1080/60 for your viewing pleasure. It was a pretty pleasant case to build in. Here's the advantage of a case that is Mini ITX, but the size of a micro ATX mini tower. Is this really easy to build in? There's lots of room for full-size components and organizing your cables. It's got the big 180 millimeter front intake fan. There's a lot of Temgen TJ08 energy in this case. The top-mounted power supply, the 180 millimeter intake fan. It's missing the front, 5¼ inch drive bay, but and the inverted motherboard layout. But in many ways, this reminded me a lot of that Temgen case. Anyway, watch the video if you're interested. It's 8.5 minutes long. People are raving about its watchability. How can you go wrong? Anyway,
And
the
apparently
case.
there are a lot of people
It's a
like
good
that
video.
case a lot better than the Torrent compact.
Yeah, it's weird. And here's the first comment on the site is like, Operandi, if that's how it's pronounced, said, I feel like they kind of missed the mark by not making this a bit bigger and supporting mini or micro ATX.
Didn't they release a micro ATX version at the same time?
No, the Torrent
No, the compact
will
is
fit
actually
up to an
ATX.
E-ATX. It'll fit an E-ATX if you take out some of the fans on the cooling on the bottom. And everything is apparently scrunched in. Like, it's just uncomfortable to work with no matter what you put into it because they didn't do exactly what they should have, which is a slightly bigger one.
I've seen several reviews on the Nano, but I had not seen anything on the
Torrent compact, yeah.
Check out
Apparently.
Wendell's channel, Level 1 Text. He did a review of the compact. Let's move to picks of the week.
I hope
Who's
this
gonna
is
start us
happier
off?
news.
Who's going to start us off this week? We don't have Josh.
Josh
No.
is.
Jeremy,
Oh.
next on the list. Next man up. It's the PC per way.
So after the discussion we had earlier, I was going to switch to the how to rebuild an old iPod into something that's actually pretty cool nowadays, but I decided not to because if there's one thing I like more than ragging on Apple fans, it's ragging on cryptocurrency miners. So guess what? And look at the where I'm searching here on Mike's Computer Shop. It's home crypto mining, fans for mining, where you can buy a house fan for over twice the manufacturer's retail sale price. You can get this thing for about $30 just about anywhere. But it's the special Royal Sovereign 16-inch pedestal fan for mining.
What does that mean?
$71. It doesn't matter. It's just under fans for mining, so therefore it's worth the extra money.
What a ripoff.
I literally
the fan motor uses blockchain propulsion.
It must.
Let's see.
Yes.
Well, it's so you can visualize it in the metaverse.
Royal Sovereign is one of the El Cheapo brands off of Amazon and any other.
This looks like the fan you would pick up at any Walmart
for about $30
for $20.
Yeah, $20-$30. But it's a mining fan. Okay. So for 4 easy payments of $17.75, you can own your own mining pedestal fan. And I saw this and I just laughed and laughed and laughed.
These figures are in Kanukistan Copex, aren't they?
Yes, this is Kanukistan, so it'd probably only be about $60 down there.
Okay. All right. That makes me feel slightly better about the overpriced fan, at least.
But not a lot better.
More than twice as much as you'd be
Am I
paying.
sitting on a gold mine? I've got a couple of those of similar looking fans to that.
Look, nobody wants your used fans.
I could.
Oh no,
they look nearly
just
new.
list them for mining and put them up on Craigslist. And
tested and working. I plugged it in and I felt air on my face. $100.
Exactly.
We live in an era that sucks.
Everything
or blows. They really. You should have said blows, Brett. Come on.
Oh, I blew it.
Hey, there you go.
We're not talking about vacuum cleaners.
I blew it.
Oh, good one.
You blew it.
All right, it came back. All right, who's next? What is this?
This is me. I went to Woot and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to pick something out of Woot. And then I came to this particular page that I'm like, there are so many TVs here. So many TVs. And I started clicking through them. I'm like, I can't just pick one. I can't. My advice here, my pick is please, if you're in the market for a television and you don't want to pay retail, Woot is selling you factory fresh refurbs for the most part. They still come with a warranty, mostly. There are a couple here that are definitely in line with the ones I was considering, like the one you're passing in the far left right now, the LG Alexa C1, bottom left-hand corner, 4K Smart OLED TV right there in the corner. $10.19 to $13.99. I priced this C1 on Amazon, and it's about $13, and here it's the 55. It's about $10.19. So there's hundreds of dollars potential savings on television.
And who wouldn't want a used OLED? I mean,
come on.
It's not like you're losing out on the useful life of an organic LED panel.
These are generally returns or factory. refreshes.
Perfect.
Yes.
Only some minor bruising on the screen, but you'll barely notice it.
They do come.
Do you live in a house with a child? Then buy this TV, because otherwise you will cry yourself to sleep every night after he damages your expensive OLED television.
Now you're speaking from experience here.
This
actually happened.
I've come to terms with the fact that there is a dead area in the bottom left corner of my OLED TV. It's fine.
Well,
because when I watch letterbox movies, you can't see it at all.
I think there's a possibility of people saving some money.
Filet of fish sandwiches, he would stop damaging your expensive
It's all that protein. I don't know if it was him or the dog. We have a large German Shepherd, and
he's just too strong.
Yeah, at the time,
so
this
was
the
kid riding on the dog when you were looking.
This is the corner that she would brush past or whack out of her way to get to the front window to look outside. This has all been corrected now, but I was just like, why did I take it off the wall? When it was on the wall, it was fine. I put it back on its stand because I wanted to move it to the other side of the room where there's a window, and I don't want to try to there's nowhere to hang the TV. It's a huge window.
Was this a 65?
Yeah, it's a 65. So it's more fragile. The 55 would have been less likely to be hit.
I'm in the market for a 55, I think. I think that's about as big as I want. As much as I want to spend on a TV and the wall space, it's 55 is going to be good.
But I feel like, okay, I bought this TV in 2016. I got 6 years out of it. Still looks great, except for the dead corner. So
what you're saying is 6 years of use on an OLED still looks okay.
You know, Mr. Ryan, who bought the same TV that I did,
yeah,
he was complaining, I think it was last year or the year before, about all the burn-in on his TV. He watches a lot of sports,
really?
A lot of like things with news tickers and stuff.
Oh, so he's got cryons and stuff on it, and crawlers,
lower thirds. Too, but mine is fine. I was like sending him images like, well, look at my TV on a static background. I don't think he responded, but the difference is that I left the screen shift function on all the time.
Oh, so
there are purists who will not do this because you don't get
micropixel moves
display. Yeah. Yes, not even micro. It physically moves the whole screen like 10 pixels over.
Oh, it's
20
that big.
pixels over, then 10 pixels back. So every few minutes, the whole screen shifts a little bit, but it happens infrequently, and I don't even notice it. I mean, when I was waiting for it and looking for it, I would see it. But because the whole thing is always in motion every few minutes, you never get any burn-in. So if you buy an LG OLED TV, leave screen shift on. You cannot tell the difference. You cannot tell the difference between 3828 across the room and 3840. Just leave screen shift on.
Interesting take. When I pull that in, I'm definitely going to be leaving the screen shift on. Let's see. This current monitor, this is, I think, an Acer 34-inch, 2 point some odd K, 3440 by 1440, 144 hertz refresh. Same as the one behind me, although that one's an AOC. Same panel, though. Electronics driving it a little different, but the glass is the same.
Kent, do you have a pick this evening?
I do. And this is from drop.com. And this is going on till the end of the week. You have to use a coupon code. The coupon code is Zeos888XX. Excuse me, Zeos8XX. There is a link in the document. There we go. These are the Sennheiser HD8XX. They're tuned by Drop. They retail for $1,100. The coupon code gives you $401 off until the end of this week. So while it's still expensive, that's a pretty big discount on a really, really good headphone.
$1,100. Now, what's the price with the discount? Sorry,
it's $401 off.
Oh,
so they would be $699.
I don't know if I've got $700 ears. I don't know.
I have priced my ears, and I have determined they were worth about $300. That's about where my absolute ceiling on headphones.
That sounds about right. I think Kent might actually have $700 ears.
I'm sure he does.
My ears are going. Unfortunately,
those high frequencies. There's nothing you can do about it.
High frequency roll off.
Tinnitus.
Yes,
tinnitus.
It's real. No. Seriously, you have tinnitus?
Yes.
Ooh, that's bad. Sorry to hear that.
The Marshall tinnitus.
My pick this week is also audio related, but it's far less practical. I mean, come on, who's talking here? It's got to be something completely useless to anybody with any intelligence whatsoever, and that's what makes it so great. Okay, if you don't know, Certico in Belgium, they make wavetable modules, among other things, adapters for MIDI devices for old sound cards and stuff. But this is called the E-Wave. I have been watching YouTube videos of this demonstrating the sound in different games. I am strangely compelled by it. Who would have thought that an ESS chip could sound this good? But it's an ES692. It's 16-bit 44.1, so CD quality. And it's only 1 megabyte ROM, but it's just general MIDI. It sounds so good. Any of the demos that are out there, like PC Sound Legacy on YouTube has a couple. It's crisp. The bass is full. It's so clean. It's like the ultimate output. And ESS made really good audio, chips in the past. Like they were one of the better Sound Blaster clones. And their implementation of FM synth is very close to a Yamaha OPL. But I'm a little torn because I was thinking, oh, this would be like 30 euros. No, this one's 55 euros for an ESS. It's like I've got audio drive cards. I could just, set up a system with one, but it's so clean. I don't know how to describe it. The one I have is the most practical. And it's the X2, the Dream Blaster X2. And you cannot get a Wave Blaster, even if you wanted one. And if they show up on eBay, the last ones sold for $400 and $450 each for the bare card. So daughter boards, MIDI daughter boards, are insanely valuable right now. If you have some in an old sound card somewhere, you will make good money off of them. The Dream Blaster, and this is the latest version of it, the X2, it has a micro USB port right on it. If you connect this to your PC, you can just tell Windows to use that as your MIDI device. And you can use, it's very easy to configure in DOSBox, and then your old games are playing through this. And it's got a standard 3.5 millimeter output on it, so you hook up your PC speakers to it or go back into the line in if you actually have a sound card that has that.
So is this the newest one? Because the description seems to be trying to point you towards a newer one.
No, there is a newer one that is actually Roland authorized, where it has real Roland GS licensing and the original Roland GS sound fonts preloaded into a 16 megabyte read only GS
So if I'm playing Commander 3, this is the one to get.
Yeah, so if you like that real like Roland's GM sound, like a SC55, this is the one to get. Although there are sound fonts that will make the other one sound pretty much like this. This is the official one. So I have a whole list of things I want from Certashop. I want to get a bunch of the adapters and more of the wavetable boards before they disappear forever. Thanks for watching or listening or both. This has been the PC Perspective Podcast. We will return next week and do it all again because we're compelled to by you.